Bert understood breeding like Maurice did. I think he learned a lot from Maurice as far as breeding goes.
And that's why you say he was going back to get Maurice's dogs while everybody was getting his
trying
dogs.
to get his dog. Yeah. But now what I've done is I've gotten the Chunk dog, and he's 10 years old. Well, I've been trying to breed Chunk to a lot of my old sorrel bitches. You know, everything I got from what I had before I had Chunk. Because I had a lot of sorrels before I had Chunk, you know. But when I didn't breed Chunk, Amy Greenwood bred Chunk.
So that's where he comes from.
Yeah, Amy Greenwood's the one that bred Chunk.
Okay.
Think about the Greenwoods. They loved Bert's dogs. Bert and the Greenwoods were very close friends, and they loved anything Bert bred, they wanted it. Because they knew he was producing really top-bred dogs. And so, you know, the thing about people like the Greenwoods is they got everybody in the country sending registrations to them. And now everyone that registers dogs with the ADBA, they know what they're breeding. They know what everyone's breeding. They know the pedigree on everybody's yards.
Right.
And so when you think about that, that gives the Greenwoods an inside straight on what's working and what isn't. So understanding how much knowledge the Greenwoods have. Now, Ralph is dead, but his daughters are still alive and his son is still alive. And they're the ones that are running the ADBA. Mm-hmm. But when you put that much knowledge into one family, they put together it's Chunk. Chunk is the fruit of all that knowledge come together. I'm telling you right now, I've been saying it for years, ever since I first got Chunk. I got Chunk, he was 4 years old. When I got him, I was so excited because I knew what he was. But it's taken me from the time he was 4 until now, that was 6 years. And I'm still telling it, but not everybody believes it. But I'm still telling it. I believe that Chunk, now it goes right back to Maurice Carver. Chunk is the best bred Black Widow / Charles Maurice Carver dog that's alive today. There's not a better bred dog in the country on that line of dogs. Now, I'm not saying he's the best bred dog in the country. I'm saying of the Maurice Carver and Bert Charles line, he's the best there is. He's the best of that line. And if you knew about Bert, he was always trying to get Carver dogs, and everybody was always trying to get his dogs. And then you put that together, that's Chunk. Chunk is the fruit of all those, yes. Chunk is the fruit of all those years.
I checked out Chunk. Looking at him, I was looking at, his pictures, his pedigree. I had to look at it several times after hearing your interview about, really have to pay attention to it. And also just what you said about him, you basically built a yard off of him, a family around him. And I guess the next question to go into that is, what qualities in him, for everybody that's, wanting to know, gain knowledge, myself, what qualities he showed you to say, hey, besides the pedigree, he's worthy for me to breed him, start a yard off him?
Well, he's all those dogs that I've talked about. He'll catch a squirrel. He'll catch a hog. You put him in the box. You put him in if you did. Now, I'm not doing that. I'm not involved in matching dogs anymore. I don't do that. But
definitely.
If he wanted, now, of course, he's 10 years old, but when he was in his prime, oh, man, he was that same dog that you could, when you come home from work, you take him off the chain and wash his feet and bring him inside the house. He'd get up in the bed with your kids.
Right.
He's
got those attributes.
Yes, sir. You catch a hog, catch a squirrel, all those things. He's just a good all-around dog, and easygoing, laid back. He gets excited now. When you start working putting dogs on the treadmill, man, he's 10 years old. He still acts like he's a puppy. He get out there and start barking at you. He just put me up on that treadmill, put me up on that turntable. He loves that turntable.
He want to exercise. He want to work.
Yeah, he loves to get off the chain and go running on a treadmill. He loves that shit. But he's just a good all-around dog. Yeah, but what makes him great is that pedigree, on top of the fact that he's just a good all-around, and he's proven. See, there's so many dogs that are out there that didn't do anything that are being bred.
Right.
Chunk is not that. Chunk has done something. Chunk has run in the field with me. What I saw that day, on top of the fact of how well-bred he was, there was no doubt in my mind he was going to produce good dogs because I knew that line.
Okay.
I mean, I got 45, almost 50 years in this thing. I've got some time in it, enough time in it to know what's going to work and what doesn't. That's why I got that stuff from Ronnie Hyde right now. I've got the Ronnie Hyde stuff that when Ronnie Hyde died, I got it stuff. I got it. It's on my website right now. I go to my website, Bulletproof Kennels, and I'm there to breeding. It's Ronnie Hyde. It's Sammy and Blackfly. Hyde's Sammy, Hyde's Blackfly. And what that goes back to is Hyde's Bloody Sunday, Hyde's Meanie, and Hyde's Satchmo Bully. And Satchmo Bully goes back to Ironhead. And all that other stuff goes back to Carver, Walling's Bully Son and Carver's One Eye. Now, if you look at Carver's One Eye, it's pure Black Widow. Pure Black Widow. So you got Bully Son over One Eye. That's Bully Son over Black Widow. And then you got Hyde's Meanie. And you got Hyde's Bloody Sunday. And you got Ironhead making Satchmo Bully.
Okay.
And then the other stuff that's in that Carver blood from Ronnie Hyde that I've got is that Carver's Bully Son and One Eye, and then you got Wood Snooty mixed up with Rick Sarles, not Bert Sarles, Rick Sarles Pistol Pete, which is the old Boomerang blood.
Right.
So
I saw that.
So you got Boomerang, Snooty, and Maurice Carver. But see, Snooty, when you look at Snooty, Kinsey Wood bought Wood Snooty from Maurice Carver. Maurice Carver bred Wood Snooty. And guess what? He also bred Boomerang. So those dogs I got are pure old school, not tar baby shit. Not none of that Thibodeau shit. I'm talking about the real old school 1980s Maurice Carver blood. It's Boomerang, it's Wood Snooty, and it's Ironhead, Carver's Meanie, or Hyde's Meanie, Hyde's Bloody Sunday, and Carver's One Eye. All that shit mixed into one. And it's all that goes back to pure Black Widow. And what is Chunk? Chunk's a Black Widow dog. But now it's a cross. Even though Chunk's got Sarles blood in him, whereas my Carver blood has the Black Widow but no Sarles.
Right.
So anyway, I'm making those breedings. What I've done is in the last 15 years is tighten my Sarles blood up, and I've got a lot of females, the good female dogs, that are heavy Sarles / Black Widow, because that's what Bert loved. Bert loved Black Widow, and Bert loved Miss Spike. Of the females, that was Bert's top stuff. Carver's Miss Spike and Carver's Black Widow. And so what I got in Chunk is that Miss Spike and Black Widow. And then what I got from Ronnie Hyde is basically Black Widow, Boomerang, and Snooty, which is all goes back to Maurice Carver, and so I've made that cross. In fact, I made that breeding the second time. I bred Chunk himself to that really tight bred Carver bitch. I got two of them. I got a brother and sister. The brother, he's a black dog with a white stripe down his muzzle, and I call him Bash, like you bash somebody in the head with a stick. I call him Bash, and then I got his sister, and I call her Chigger.
Okay,
like a chigger that gets under your skin, bites, like a bug, chigger bug, a red bug. The red bugs, we call them chiggers. And when they bite you, buddy, you're bit. Oh, they itch you. They'll wear you out. Nothing worse than getting bit by a chigger, man. That you'll scratch it. You'll dig a hole in your leg trying to get that satisfied
thing out. Woo. So those two are brother and sister that you saying you have now, and you crossing that up.
I'm crossing that to my Chunk blood. In fact, I just made that breeding yesterday. And so they'll be coming out, let's see, this is 1st of August, September, they'll be coming out the very first part of October. Somewhere around early October. And that's the pure of the old Sarles and Maurice Carver breed. That's where I'm going at. I've gone as far as I can go with regard to just breeding Chunk to my pure Sarles stuff, which Chunk is a heavy Sarles dog, but he's not a pure Sarles dog. Chunk is a mixture of Sarles and Carver. Okay? But now what I've done now is I've taken him to another line of dogs that are from Maurice Carver but have no Sarles in them. So it's a cross, but it's a line bred cross is what it is.
Moving it, if I can, ask you this, and then for everybody's listening, when it comes to, and plenty of people talked about it. You talked about it, making a cross, making an inbreeding, and making a line breeding. With my understanding, I'm trying to see which one is the best, but I asked that meaning, I guess it's depending on what you're trying to get out of that. So you make a line breeding, you're trying to get it something different from making an inbreeding, or you make outcross.
Okay, you got to start from what produces, Nowadays, these young guys, they don't know the difference between what you just asked. They don't know. Everybody calls a breeding, I'm going to make that cross, I'm going to make this cross. Well, they're using the term wrong. There's 3 different breedings. There's inbreeding. That's the only way you can make an inbreeding is it's father-daughter. There's only 3 inbreedings, okay? Father-daughter, mother-son, and brother-sister. That's 3 breedings that you can make that are inbred. In other words, that's direct to the same family that they came out of. Father-daughter, mother-son, brother-sister. Of those 3, the tightest is the brother-sister because they are closer than the father-daughter or the mother-son. Okay. Nevertheless, the only reason you do those breedings like that is when you want to preserve the line that you have. Now, line breeding is the most safe breeding you can make because you preserve what you've got, but you're not going so tight with it that it gets all kind of messed up. Like, you heard those people in Appalachian Mountains, in like say North Carolina and Kentucky and Virginia. Back in the day, they talk about you can Google it. You can go on YouTube and
I know you go. I know you're going with it. Yeah,
they're fucked up, man. Them people are fucked up. They've been inbreeding brother and sister and father and daughter and incestuous breeding. They fucked up the family, fucked up the people. But it doesn't fuck them up if you don't do it the wrong way. In other words, you've got to selectively do that. You don't do that if you've got, like, say, the mama of a mother-son breeding is undershot. If you do that breeding, you're going to have very undershot dogs because the bad traits are going to come out. The good traits will come out too, but the bad traits will be overscored the good traits.
I think that you would double up on the good traits and triple up on the bad traits or something like that.
Exactly. That's exactly right. But now then you go line breeding. That's the secure breeding. That's the breeding. The old dog man, when I got in the game in the 70s, the old dog man just never wanted to make an outcross. Outcrosses was the word. I talked to Don Mayfield about it one time. He explained it this way. And, of course, I was a newcomer. He said, son, he could you get you a grand champion, and he's a great dog by all reasons and all obvious productions. You bring a grand champion out to my yard, and you show me or tell me how he's bred. If he's not bred the way I'm bred, I got no use for your grand champion. I wouldn't breed to him. I'd sooner breed to a mosquito. And so I'm not going to breed to that dog, your grand champion, just because he's a grand champion. I'm only going to breed to the dogs that I want to breed to because they're bred. I'm preserving the dogs that I started with. And the way you do that is by line breeding and inbreeding. The way you lose that is by outcrossing. But see, now I've got to a point right now with Chunk where I can't go any more with my Sarles line out of Chunk without getting too tight. But so now it's time for me to start making my crosses. And my crosses now are with the Ronnie Hyde line, the Carver blood. Okay. So I'm making my Chunk cross with the Carver line because I'm tight. I've already tightened it up, and now it's time to go out. Right, but you don't go too tight, and you don't keep going back and back and back too tight. If you do that, you're going to end up screwing your dogs up. They're not going to be good. And by the same token, what's going on now with these young guys? Say one guy, say you got two dog men in Mississippi, right? Yeah. Okay, so you got, I'm just hypothetically, you got two dog men in Mississippi, and they're good friends, but they're breeding two different lines of dogs. And they go to a show, and they see this one guy shows his dog, and his dog shows up really good. And then the other guy is friends with that guy. He goes and shows one of his dogs, and it shows up really good. And then they get together and think, man, we need to breed some dogs together. So without thinking about, the lines that they're running, they just cross their dog without ever, and what happens? See, if you breed, say you breed Chunk to a cross, the puppies are only half of what Chunk is.
Right.
You see, they're only half a Chunk. But if you breed him back to a daughter, they're 3/4 or more of what he is. Right. So you preserve what Chunk is as opposed to losing what Chunk is. So every time you make a cross, you're reducing what your dog, the dog that you say you want him 2-time or 3-time winner, and you breed him some dog that's not bred like he's bred. Them puppies are only half of what that champion was. Mm-hmm. And then they took them puppies and go cross it again. That dog is already washed out. That champion that they started with, he's not even in the mix. He's in the pedigree, but he's not. His influence in that pedigree is not making any difference at all. You see? But that's what's hitting today. These young guys today, they're just crossing. Nobody's line breeding. Nobody's breeding their dogs pure. Everybody's out crossing. And that's why you're getting so many tame pit bulls. Pit bulls that are, all those dogs you see on YouTube, and they're sweet. They're good dogs. They're great dogs, but they wouldn't hit a lick. they wouldn't catch a fly. I mean, they see a damn squirrel across the yard and they just look at it. They don't even go for it. They don't run after it.
Right. They lost something.
They've lost something. They're domesticated pit bulls. They're pit bulls that are not game bred anymore. They're just outcrossed so much that they've lost what they originally were, you see?
Right. Yes, sir.
So that's why it's fine to make a cross. Crosses are okay. But what you got to do when you make the cross, the way you maintain it, is now I've made a cross with Chunk, right? Those puppies, what I do is I go back to Chunk with it.
See, I guess you answer the next question.
Or I go back to the mother side of it. Because that's why I got a brother and sister of that old Ronnie High blood, the Carver blood. I got a brother and a sister. So now with the puppies out of this, I go back to the mother's brother.
Right, that's how you do it.
That's line breeding. And now I'm holding on to what I started with.
So in that cross, when you make that direct cross, what I'm trying to understand is, and I'm saying it for everybody who's listening and want to learn like me, once you make that cross, the hardest thing is to pick out the individual out of that litter of that cross.
Well, that's performance. What you're doing is you're culling your yard by picking out the best one. In other words, you get them all out there as, say 6-8 month old puppies, and you get, you see which one wants to catch the squirrel the most, or see which one when you bring a young pig. Say you got a friend of yours that hog hunts, and he's got a pen full of wild hogs, and say the wild hogs had some babies, and say when them baby hogs are coming up, maybe they're 6 months old, you bring your dogs over there. See which one of your dogs is the most absolutely determined to go get one of them hogs. That's the way you find out which dog you got that's the best performer, you see. The one that has the highest drive. So the one that has the highest drive is the one you breed, you see.
Yes, sir.
And so that's how you keep a game dog line. And by making sure, that the one you breed is the one that wants to catch the most.
Right.
The one that's absolutely the most determined to go get something,
And that principle goes with greyhounds, goes with hound dogs, Patterdale terriers.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Whatever breed, horse, whatever.
Yes, sir. It's the same concept that the people that race, at the Kentucky Derby, the way they got those horses to run in the Kentucky Derby is that same, thing. They take the foals, the babies, they raise them up when they get strong enough. They exercise them, they condition them, and then they start running them on their track.
Right.
And they put the timer on it. And then when you get the best one out of that litter, and of course, they don't have litters. They usually have a single fold,
Right.
A mare has a single fold. And they run that foal until they find out, okay, this is running some bitch right here. This is the one we want to breed. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
So, anyway, with pit bulls and with horses too, they got a long pedigree, man. They got paper. Paper's important. Make no mistake about paper. But paper by itself, paper ain't shit. But it's very important when it comes to your breeding program. And that's why these young guys today are making a mistake. They're just breeding what they like, and they're not basing it on the blood that they've got. They're just basing it on one side of the equation. In other words, there's an equation out there, and it's got 3 or 4 parts to it. Right. One part is performance. The other part is paper, the pedigree. The other part is prey drive and catch drive, and the other part is gameness, and the other part is ability and talent and bite.
You got to have
all those parts of the equation make up the whole, but you got to get all those parts in one dog or one horse. You see,
and that takes time. That takes effort.
Yeah, and it takes a lifetime. By selectively breeding your yard, and these young guys today, they're selectively breeding on one trait. It's only part of the equation. And the mistake they're making is they keep crossing. They're losing their game dogs. They're not game no more.